Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for joining me for another Alfred Hitchcock Presents review. Today I will be talking about Season 3, Episode 22, The Return of the Hero, starring Jacques Bergerac as Sergeant Andre and Susan Kohner as Therese or Therese. I'll just say Therese for this purposes of this review. And this is definitely one of those episodes that's just kind of there. Technically, there's nothing terribly wrong with it. And I try not to call episodes filler too often, but if there ever was a filler episode of a show, this episode kind of feels like it. Like I said, not because it's terrible, but because it's very slow and not a lot really happens. The story is kind of interesting in places. There's a few good scenes, but the episode really doesn't there's not that much to the plot. This is one of those episodes that feels like it only has about 10 to 15 minutes of plot to it, and the ending is pretty straightforward as well. So we start out with a father and an uncle, and they're talking about the man's daughter, the father. Her name is Therese, and they're kind of arguing about whether or not she should marry some guy. I think he's a butcher who will be introduced later in the episode. Kind of a strange opening scene. Then we're introduced to two of our more main characters. Their names are Andre and Marcel. And they're coming home from the war, and it turns out that Marcel lost a leg, saving Andre, which is significant to the plot of the episode. And you can tell that they're definitely friends at this point. We also learn that Andre fell for this girl, Therese, during this time, and it's kind of mentioned that he's already supposed to be involved with another woman back home who you can tell he's not that interested in. You can also see that Therese is upset about this whole situation. So the men chat some more at the bar, and Marcel is flirting with this girl there, which was kind of amusing, a pretty good scene. We also learn more about Andre's engagement, which isn't as interesting, in my opinion, but it's important to the plot. I also want to mention that all these scenes go on kind of long. The episode's definitely a little padded and takes a while to get where it's going, but not really in an annoying way. It's just kind of deliberate. So at this point, Andre and Therese finally talk, and you can tell Andre is very troubled about the war, which is very understandable. And he tries to make light of the relationship, I think just to get her, to basically go away or do something else. But Therese definitely wants to stay with him and help him. You can tell she genuinely loves him and cares about what happens. So then this man that Therese is supposed to marry, her fiance, comes in, and this guy's immediately annoying. He starts arguments. This makes Andre complain about it. He says, if you want to have an argument, take it somewhere else. But nothing really comes of this. I'm not really sure why this is here other than to show that Therese's fiance isn't the most understanding person. I guess it works for that. So then there's this nonsense bet between Marcel and this butcher. It's pretty uninteresting, but it basically leads to a phone call where Andre talks to his mother, which you can tell he's not too excited about. He also talks to some other family members. One is Sybil. I'm not sure if this is supposed to be his fiance or just a relative. Wasn't really made clear. And then a woman named Lily, who was pretty cool. I actually liked that character. I would like to see more of her in the episode. So basically what comes of all this is Andre's family argues about whether Andre should bring Marcel home or not. And other than Lily, who's pretty understanding, the rest of the family doesn't seem to want to have Marcel around because he only has one leg, which you can tell they're not the most understanding or nicest people in the world. They seem more worried about their reputations and things like that. So this upsets Andre, and he tells Marcel he's not going home. He also tells Therese she should marry the other guy and leaves. But at this point, Therese basically gets her father, with help from her uncle, to finally agree to go run after Andre. And that's just how the episode ends that abruptly, with Therese going after Andre. So like I said, there's a couple interesting characters in this episode, but there's too many side characters who don't really have anything to do other than provide exposition. I would have liked to see the main characters just fleshed out a little bit more. And like I said, there's a lot of padding and a lot of filler on this episode. And the end doesn't really have a twist or anything. It's kind of underwhelming. Therese just goes after Andre, which is fine, I guess. Like I said, the return of the hero, there's nothing terrible about it, but I felt it could have been a lot better, and it's just very underwhelming and mediocre would be the terms I would use, and I'm going to give The Return of the Hero a 2 out of 5. A watchable episode, but definitely not essential in my opinion, and definitely on the slower side. So 2 out of 5 for The Return of the Hero, and as always, thank you very much for watching.